Hi, today let's take a look at direct speech, indirect speech and how to convert from one to the other. Now direct and indirect is best explained with an example. John said, I am washing the car. Now this is something that John is saying directly to you or to somebody else. Now when you want to tell somebody what John said and how you convert the sentence then you are using indirect speech. Now if you take a look at the direct speech sentence, I am washing the car is actually what John said, and this is called reporting speech. Alright, and the verb that comes before the quotation marks, this is called reporting verb. So now this is direct speech and you need to convert it to indirect speech. You notice that the sentence changes a lot and we will show you how to do this in a series of steps. So what is the first step when you want to convert a sentence from direct to indirect speech? Our sentence is, she said, within quotation marks, I am writing a book. Now when you are converting it to indirect, the first thing you have to do is remove the quotation marks. In any indirect speech, you will never use quotation marks. So remove the quotation marks and next you have to remove the comma. Alright. So if you look at our sentence, she said that she was writing a book. There are no quotation marks, there is no comma and a new word that has been added. So step 1 is remove quotation marks, remove the comma and add that. Now what we want to bring to your attention here is the reporting verb. As you know, the reporting verb is the verb that comes before the reporting speech. In this case, it is said. So when you are converting from direct to indirect, you have 3 kinds of reporting verbs. You can have it in the present tense says, you can have it as said, which is the past tense, and you can have it in the future. When you convert from direct to indirect, you have to make sure that the reporting verb remains the same. So, she says, when I convert it to indirect, will always be she says. If the sentence started with she said, when you are converting it to indirect, you will keep it the same and you will say she said. And finally, she will say remains the same when you convert it, she will say. Of course, what is within the quotation marks, the reporting speech will change, but the reporting verb doesn't change. Another very common mistake that we often hear people make is when they are converting from direct to indirect, they say, she said me that she was writing a book, or they will say, she told to me that she was writing a book. Now both of these are wrong. You either say, she said that she was writing a book, or you will say, she told me that she was writing a book. You never say, she said me, and you never say, she told to me. Always remember that when you are converting from direct to indirect. The next step is how to change the verb in the reporting speech when you want to convert from direct to indirect. A quick recap here. This is your sentence in direct speech. She said, I dash the car, where this blank has to be filled in by the verb. Remember, whatever comes within the quotation marks is called the reporting speech. And now we are going to see how to change this verb when you convert from direct to indirect or reported speech. So over here, as you can see, we have a little table and this gives you the simple forms of the tense. You have simple present, simple past and simple future. Now when you are converting from direct to indirect, if your verb is in the simple present, so if it is clean, for example, when you convert to indirect, it becomes cleaned. If your verb in the reporting speech is cleaned, that is simple past, when you convert to indirect, you have to use had cleaned. And if your verb is will clean in the reporting speech, when you convert to indirect, you would say would clean. Now let's do it with the help of an example. She said, I clean the car. Now when we convert that to indirect, you have to say, she said that. Remember what we did in step 1? You have to remove the quotation marks, you have to remove the comma and added that. So we are doing that already. She said that she, look at the table, cleaned the car. Let's do the next one. She said, I cleaned the car. When converting to indirect, she said that she had cleaned the car. And if you look at simple future, she said, I will clean the car. This becomes, she said that she would clean the car. So remember, when you are converting from direct to indirect, and if your verb is in the simple form of the tense, this is what you have to do to change it. So what would you do if you were converting from direct to indirect and your verb in the reporting speech happened to be continuous? Let's look at this. You have present continuous, past continuous and future continuous. So if your verb is am cleaning, you will convert it to was cleaning when you are changing your sentence from direct to indirect. If your verb is was cleaning, it gets changed to had been cleaning. And finally, will be cleaning becomes would be cleaning. Now let's look at these in an example. She said, I am cleaning the car, now becomes she said that she was cleaning the car. She said, I was cleaning the car, when converted to indirect or reported speech becomes she said that she had been cleaning the car. She said, I will be cleaning the car. This becomes she said that she would be cleaning the car. So remember this table when you want to convert from direct to indirect and your verb is in the continuous form. And now we look at the perfect forms of the tense and how to convert that from direct to indirect speech. So have cleaned, which is present perfect, will change to had cleaned. Had cleaned, past perfect, changes to had cleaned. It doesn't change, it stays the same. Sorry. Will have cleaned, which is future perfect, becomes would have cleaned. So let's use this in an example. She said, I have cleaned the car. When you convert this to indirect, you will be saying, she said that she had cleaned the car. She said, I had cleaned the car. On conversion to indirect, she said that she had cleaned the car. Not much of a change there. She said, I will have cleaned the car, will now become, she said that she would have cleaned the car. So this is how you convert from direct to indirect when your verb is in the perfect form. Now there's one thing that you need to notice. In the future, whether it was simple future, whether it was future continuous or whether it was future perfect. The only change that happens in the verb is will becomes would. If you go back to the previous tables, the remaining part of the verb stays the same, only the will becomes would. So when you are writing your exam or test or you have to do this orally, if somebody tells you change this sentence from direct to indirect and it happens to be in the future, you need not worry about anything, just change the will to would in the reporting part of the speech and your work is done. Now, when our verb in the reporting speech is in the perfect continuous form, how do we change from direct to indirect is what we are going to see. So, have been cleaning becomes had been cleaning. Had been cleaning, which is the perfect continuous, past perfect continuous becomes stays the same, had been cleaning. Will have been cleaning, that is future perfect continuous. Remember what we said, only the will changes to would and the rest remains the same. So will have been cleaning becomes would have been cleaning. Now let's look at these particular forms of the verb in an example. The direct speech, she said, I have been cleaning the car since morning. Now when you want to convert that, she said that she had been cleaning the car since morning. The next, she said, I had been cleaning the car for 2 hours when the bell rang. When you convert it to indirect, she said that she had been cleaning the car for 2 hours when the bell rang. The third one, she said, by 7 p.m. I will have been cleaning the car for 2 hours. Now when you want to convert that to indirect, she said that by 7 p.m. she would have been cleaning the car for 2 hours. So this is how you convert when your verb is in the perfect continuous form. Remember our table and your sentences will always be right. Up till now, we had seen how to change from direct to indirect when the reporting verb was said. But you can also have sentences in English where the reporting verb will be says or it could be will say. In that case, how do you change? What you should remember is we had first told you that if the reporting verb is says or will say, the verb inside the reporting speech does not change. So let's just look at a few examples. She says, I am cleaning the car. Now this is direct. When you convert it to indirect, she says that she is cleaning the car. The only change that you notice here in the verb is am cleaning becomes is cleaning. And why is that? Because the pronoun I has changed to she. Otherwise, the tense has remained the same. Another example. She says, I clean the car. Now when you convert that to indirect, how do you do it? She says that she cleans the car. Okay? So the tense of the verb remains the same, but it has to correspond to the pronoun, hence clean becomes cleans. She says, I have cleaned the car. Now when you convert that into indirect, she says that she has cleaned the car. So remember, we are repeating this again because we do not want you to make this mistake. When your reporting verb is says, the tense has to remain the same and keep this also the same. Do not change this says to said when you are converting from direct to indirect. Now let's look at will say. He will say, I was playing football. Now how do we convert that to indirect? He will say that he was playing football. Okay? Another example. He will say, I played football in the morning. Converting it to indirect will give you, he will say that he played football in the morning. He will say, I play football every day. When you convert, he will say that he plays football every day. Now, what if the reporting word had been said? How would the sentence have sounded? She said, I clean the car. When we convert that from direct to indirect, the sentence would be, she said that she cleaned the car, right? This is according to the table that you have seen, which we have showed you till now. But it does not apply in this case because the reporting verb is says. You need to remember that the table that we showed is only when the reporting verb is said. Another example, this was, he will say, I played football in the morning. Now suppose the sentence had been, he said, I played football in the morning. How would we have changed it then? It would have become, he said that he had played football in the morning, corresponding to the table you saw. But it is not said, it is will say. And in this case, you have to make sure that the tense remains the same. Now another doubt that you may get is, when will we use this sort of a sentence when we are speaking? When will we say he will say in the future? This is like a prediction. If you ask somebody, what is he going to say? Then you can say, he will say, I was playing football. So this is when you use this sort of sentence. And remember, again, says and will say, you do not change the tense of the verb inside the quotation marks.